Hello, welcome back to Daisy Dice. This is a channel where we talk all about Salvadorian history or history that Salvadoran people were in. Today, we are here with Will behind the camera.
Hey.
And I'm Daisy. Today I have a story for you. The story is about Los Siete de la Raza. I don't know if you can see all the papers in front of me, but I have a lot of information. So let's get to it. If you're interested in this story, look it up yourself. If I say something that you're like, I know more about this and that's incorrect, and then leave it down in the comments. I really just want to share this story because it's really, really powerful. Our baby is crying. Okay, so Los Siete de la Raza was this group of guys that lived in Mission District, right? They became Los Siete de la Raza after an incident happened with a cop. Before I get into the story, let me give you a little bit of background of Mission District. Can you guess where it is?
In San Salvador? I don't know.
Okay, close, but way off. San Francisco. So in California. I guess you guessed San Salvador because it's like Salvadorian history.
Yeah.
So out of the 7 men that we're talking about, 4 were Salvadorian, 1 was Nicaragua, and the other one was Honduran. All Central American and 4 Salvadorians. This happened in Potrero Hill, Mission District. It kind of like reminds me a little bit about like the town we used to live. The 19th, 20th century, lots of Irish and German immigrant workers in the land. 1940 to 60s, a lot of Mexican immigrants. In the 1960s, Central Americans, right? So now we have Irish, German, Mexican, Central Americans. I'm pretty sure a bunch more, but those are like the big ones. You know, there's sometimes tension that brews up when another ethnicity or community comes into the town. The day is May 1st, 1969. There's 7 dudes. Imagine you and your buddies. There's 7 dudes just like taking a TV out of Jose Rios' house. And 2 men approached them in plaincloth police officers. That means like casually dressed, right?
Yeah, like not in uniform.
One was Joseph Brodnick and Paul McGrogan. They approached the 7 people, the Los Siete de la Raza, and they start like just being like really hard-bodied with them, right? Whatever, nobody knows what happens, but there was an altercation to the point where shots were fired and Joseph Brodnick passes away, the cop. Immediately, there was like just everybody, all the police force was looking for these 7 men. The big thing was like, wait, why are we, like at the time it was like, why are we like saying that these 7 men are guilty all of a sudden? It could have been anybody. We don't know what happened. After that shot, the police stormed the nearby home, which Rios' family resided in. So Jose Rios was one of the dudes that lived in that house. It was his house, right? And when they were taking out the TV, the 2 policemen came in and the altercation happened in front of that house. So the police went back to the house and they tear gassed and 150 rounds were fired.
Damn.
And the cops came in full force. And they actually wounded Jose Rios' 14-year-old sister. So they got Nelson Rodriguez, Mario Martinez, Tony Martinez, Jose Rios, Gary Lescalet, Bebe Melendez, Gio Lopez. So those were the men who were there. But they got all of them except for Gio Lopez because he actually fled. And I'll talk a little bit about him later. They got these men. It was really like a slap in the face for the Latino community. And that's how Los Siete de la Raza was born. During the trial, a lot of people really organized with them. There was a lot of injustice happening in the community in front of like the Latino community either way. So it kind of like this incident triggered like a whole movement.
Yeah, like something that was already existing there.
Yeah, and the movement was called Los Siete de la Raza, which Los Siete means the seven, de la Raza is of the race. So the seven of the race. They were being charged with murder of Joseph, they call him Joe as well, Joe Bronick, and Charles Gary represented Los Siete de la Raza. Charles Gary is like really cool. Like I would like to meet him. He actually represented Huey P. Newton. Do you know who that is? Because he actually got accused of also killing an officer. And he also represented in 1978 the People's Temple. And back in the day, actually, you didn't have to go to law school to be a lawyer. So Charles Gary didn't go to law school, but he represented a bunch of stuff. Makes you think, do you really need college? Or is it just a certification made up? And what came out of Los Siete de la Raza is a newspaper, a restaurant, a centro de salud, and a breakfast program. So they kind of became like, they worked really hand in hand with the Black Panther movement, because the Black Panther movement had like, they started WIC, they started like free food, all of this. I'm not too versed on the Black Panther movement, but I know they had their own newspapers as well. So it's really cool because at this point in history here in the US, like both Los Siete de la Raza and the Black Panther movement were like kind of like moving together, to the point that when the trial was happening, Huey P. Newton attended the trial to support them. Isn't that so cool?
Wow.
It makes me feel like really love, like a lot of love. There's a lot of room for the Latino community and the Black community to work more hand in hand. And if y'all know of any groups already working hand in hand, let me know, because I would like to know more about them. And they caught the 7 kids because they were young. They were like right off college and in college, so they were really young kids. But what happened is the newspapers, and I'm reading right off Los Siete de la Raza. So this is from the newspaper itself, which is called Basta Ya, Basta Ya is like enough. It says, the day that Joe Brodnick died and his partner Paul McGoran was wounded will probably never come out, like the details. But long before the trial began, the newspapers, the other mass media, the mayor, the police had already accused and convicted the 7 young men of murder. So they actually described them as hoodlums and Latin hippies. And the mayor said they were a bunch of punks, unquote, who attacked idealistic cops, killing one. So one can say, there was 7 of them, there was 2 cops, they outweighed it. But let me get to it. There was a history that Brodnick has used in the past excessive force. So he would be like a really mean cop. McGoran denied drawing his gun, but his estranged wife testified that her husband carried marijuana and other drugs to plant on his suspects.
Wow.
So they were like shitty cops.
Yeah.
And so at the end, actually, for the 16 weeks of trial, they presented a strong case, the Los Sietes. And 4 of Los Sietes took a stand, and through all of that, their charges were dismissed.
Hey.
I really, really want to highlight the activism that came out of it. What actually came out of it was a lot of community. It says, quote, "It's decided the best way to get the brothers free was to continue to expand their work of serving the needs of the community. So the people want to defend them. Los Siete started a free breakfast for children program, a community newspaper, and a community restaurant, the Basta Ya, at 14th and Valencia. Soon they will have a free health clinic. Every day, more people in Mission Hill see that the seven got busted because they were fighting for their people's survival and basic needs, not because they were letting hippies or hoodlums. The tension in Mission District was high, and when Los Siete de la Raza happened, it triggered this response from the community. So now the community was really standing up for them. They had the newspaper. They would really be there for them in the trials. They had the support of the Black Panther movement. Like, this was really massive for that time, you know?
That's crazy. I'm surprised they don't have like a movie or something about this.
Yes, and you know how I found out about this story? In the last story that I covered about Roque Dalton, Nina Serrano, who was Roque's friend, told Roque about Los Siete de la Raza. And then she was like, oh, they're just like, you know, Central American kids who got wrongly accused. And so he was like, when you get back, please work with them. And so she did, and she wrote poetry. And because the cool thing about organizing, right, you have the politics, you have the people that are giving direct service, and then you have the artists who really uplift the voices of people. The artist who led a lot of their art was named Yolanda Lopez. So she created the front of the Basta Ya newspaper. All of this was like really fucking dope, honestly. I know it's like kind of like a short story. I think it had to be said because I had never ever heard of it.
Yeah. Question, so you said that there was 4 of them who got their charges dropped, but what about the other 2? Because it was 7 and 1 got away, and then 4 of them, so there was 6 of them that were being accused. 4 of them got their charges dropped. So what happened to the other 2?
Yeah, sorry. So there was 7. 1 fled. 4 took the stand, but they all got acquitted. Like, they all got dismissed. They were all free.
Copy.
They literally didn't have the power of their community and the Black Panther movement. And like, you have Huey P. Newton standing, like sitting in your audience at your trial. I don't think they would be free. This is one of like their newspapers. So, because also people are like, who is Los Siete?
Is that them?
Yeah, so that's them. And this is their newspapers. And then look, it's like, and then it shows a little bit more. It tells you a little bit more, and then it says rally 10:30, like February 16th, like be there, Viva Los Sietes. Oh, and something that I do have to say is, I don't know if they were all involved, but most of them were involved. Like, they went to college, they were in college readiness programs in their own, like, they mentioned like the Brown Berets, which is like another movement. So they were good kids from good homes, and they did good things in their college and youth. So the fact, like, people did not believe that they could have killed a cop, you know? And whether it happened, we don't know, but they're free.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I feel like that story is crazy, and it's like, I'm sure that there was even more support behind it because of, like, it was 2 cops, you know, like, because, you know, like, when, you know, cops, like, really be riding for each other and shit like that, like, the cop community. So I'm sure when a cop died, you know, the police force and everyone who's involved in that and those communities were probably, like, behind the cop and shit. And then the activists and the people of color and the people who knew about the injustices and shit like that happening, I feel like probably were like, nah, we're not gonna let this happen. Like, you know what I mean? Because y'all are hyping that up. Like, we know these kids are innocent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it just kind of, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
Blew up from there. Yeah.
One person that I do want to highlight before closing this is the 7th member of Los Siete de la Raza. So his name is Gio Lopez. He fled. He knew, like, the odds were stacked against him, and I think he was just really scared, and he just skedaddled. But what happened is, after feeling alone and scared, he went to his girlfriend's house, Linda Carlos. They refer to her in this article as Carlos. So, not to be confused for like another boy, is Linda Carlos. That's her last name. He went to her home, And then she said, I think it's best if you do flee because they had no hope that he was going to be free or all of them were going to be free. So he went to Mexico, and then from Mexico he planned to go to New Orleans because he was originally from there. And from New Orleans he went to Cuba. So in Cuba, he looked for asylum, and he could stay there for 3 years until the Cuban government was like, you have to leave. Before he went to Mexico, Linda Carlos has told him, I'm pregnant with your baby.
Oof.
Yeah. And he was like, please come with me, Linda. Like, come with me to Mexico. But Linda was like, I really can't. Like, I'm going to stay here with my family, and I'm going to fight for you. Like, she was really invested in the movement of Los Siete. So she stayed with her baby. I don't know if romantically they stayed together, but obviously that's like, how can you not have love for someone after that happens? And then he decided to go to El Salvador. They don't specify that he is the one who is Salvadorian, but I'm guessing if he's going to El Salvador. And he stayed there with family for 20 years. So after all this, he was like, you know what? Like, let me try to go back to the United States. So he attempted to come back to the US, but then he got detained at the Texas border. And he got convicted for hijacking a plane to go to Cuba. So what happened is when he went to New Orleans, he went to Cuba in a hijacked plane.
So they got him 20 years later?
Yeah.
Damn.
When he tried to come back to the US. So in this article it says, after decades being away from family and friends, Lopez's freedom was within reach. But then just a few days before his release date on October 2002, he died.
Dang, so he never met his son?
Well,
Damn.
it doesn't specify. He never made it to the US. I don't know if the son ever went to El Salvador or somewhere to meet him, but he never stepped foot in the US and
after he fled,
had a moment with his loved ones. Carlos says, she says, all of a sudden it gets closer to his release date and we find out he's really sick. It just didn't make sense. So it was like such a shitty thing. And then she does say, we were like a family, and it was like a revolution had happened because of Los Siete. And I can say I'm very proud of it. Was something good that came out of something bad. I don't know if this is a happy story or a sad story. I think it's just a powerful story. Something that happened in the United States, in San Francisco. Something that aligns with El Salvador and also with the Black Panther movement, as well as freaking Charles Gary representing freaking 4 Salvadorians plus 3 more Central Americans. There's a lot of intersectionality within the story.
Yeah, it's one of them ones like people gotta hear this, especially if you're from El Salvador or like part of the activist movement. You know, it's a great story to learn about.
Shout out Nelson Rodriguez, Mario Martinez, Tony Martinez, Jose Rios, Gary Lescalet, Bebe Melendez, and Gio Lopez. They were freed and they were Central American brothers, so let's not forget. I encourage you all to Google it. So thanks so much. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. The more stories are coming. This is just the beginning. I work full-time and I am a full-time mom as well. So it is a little difficult for me to just execute all stories like every week. I'm here to deliver Salvadorian stories. And if you have a story that you want to hear about or like you've heard and you want me to cover, list it down below. Anyways, have a great night. Please subscribe and hit the like button. See you next time.